In a lush, vibrant kingdom in West Africa, there lived a parrot named Orun. Orun was no ordinary parrot. He was renowned for his dazzling plumage and his extraordinary ability to speak as clearly as any human. His owner, a humble farmer named Kwaku, loved Orun dearly and often relied on the bird's cleverness for advice. The kingdom was ruled by a king named Orun, who was known for his insatiable greed. He taxed the people heavily, taking their crops, livestock, and treasures, leaving many in poverty. Despite this, Orun's palace was filled with gold, jewels, and riches beyond imagination. Yet, the more wealth he accumulated, the more he wanted. One day, word of Orun's intelligence reached the ears of King Orun. Curious and hoping to add the clever parrot to his collection of treasures, the king summoned Kwaku to the palace. When Kwaku arrived, the king offered him a small bag of gold in exchange for the bird. Kwaku, knowing the king's greed, replied, "Your Majesty, Orun is not just any bird. He is my friend and advisor. I cannot part with him for just a bag of gold." The king, irritated by the farmer's refusal, increased his offer. But Kwaku remained firm. Finally, the king, consumed by his desire, declared, "If you do not sell me the bird, I will take him by force and punish you for your disobedience." Orun, who had been quietly observing the exchange, suddenly spoke up. "Your Majesty," he said, "if you desire me so much, I will come to your palace willingly. But I will only do so under one condition." The king, intrigued by the talking parrot, asked, "And what condition is that?" Orun replied, "I will come to your palace, but first, you must gather all your riches, every piece of gold, every jewel, and every treasure, and place them in the great hall. Only then will I leave with you." The king, blinded by his desire to own the parrot, eagerly agreed. He ordered his servants to collect all his wealth and place it in the great hall. The room was soon filled to the brim with glittering gold, sparkling gems, and ornate treasures. When everything was ready, Orun said, "Now, Your Majesty, you must lock the doors and windows of the great hall to ensure that no one can enter or leave without your permission." The king, excited by the prospect of his new treasure, quickly did as Orun asked, sealing the hall tightly. Once the hall was secured, Orun flew to the center of the room and perched on a pile of gold. He then called out in a loud, clear voice that echoed through the hall, "People of the kingdom. Your king has taken all your wealth and locked it away in this room. But do not worry, for justice will be served." With that, Orun used his sharp beak to peck at the strings of a large drum that had been placed in the hall. The drum began to beat rhythmically, and as it did, a strange thing happened. The treasures began to disappear, turning into streams of light that flowed out of the hall, passing through the walls as if they were made of air. Outside, the people gathered in astonishment as the streams of light descended upon them, transforming back into the riches that had been taken from them. The gold, jewels, and treasures returned to their rightful owners, and the people rejoiced. Inside the hall, King Orun watched in horror as all his wealth vanished before his eyes. Desperate, he tried to open the doors and windows, but they were sealed tight. The king was left alone in the empty hall, with nothing but his greed and folly. Orun, having accomplished his mission, flew out of the hall through a small crack in the ceiling and returned to Kwaku, who was waiting outside with the people. From that day on, the kingdom prospered under a new ruler, one chosen by the people for his wisdom and kindness. As for Orun, he lived out his days with Kwaku, celebrated as the clever parrot who had outsmarted a greedy king and restored justice to the land.